So welcome everybody to our pre-construction meeting for the 2023 Roadway Rehabilitation Project here. Some quick introductions. Mike Hana, Project Manager with the City of Woodbury, here with Jeff Toutant, who's going to take on some of this presentation as well. So we're just going to kick things off, talk about probably the big thing with this project is going to be communication. Make sure that everybody knows what's going on and who to contact if you have questions. We're going to go over the phasing. Talk about what to expect with construction, go over some of the questions that we typically get, so hopefully we can answer those there, and any other questions at the end. We'll also have staff members in the back if you got to get out of here and you have a quick question. So we'll have some staff in the back if you need to get out of here, otherwise we'll open it up for large group questions. So the first thing that I want to encourage everybody to do, if you haven't already, is to sign up for this In Touch. So there's been some periodic emails that you've probably gotten if you've signed up a year ago. Once construction starts, those emails are going to become a lot more consistent. The one thing with construction I'm sure we're all aware of, the schedules change. Weather happens, contractors get delayed for whatever reason, or occasionally they even get ahead. So if you want to stay up to date on where construction's at, this is the best way to do that, and this is some information on how to sign up, and there were some handouts with other information on how to sign up for the In Touch automatic email system. So pretty easy, you just type in this web address and fill in your email address, click on the box that says Road Rehab. There's other things if you're interested in, you can click on those too, and then hit subscribe. And then the project website, this has been updated here over the last couple of weeks too, so this includes the phasing maps, this includes the project hotline information, and the frequently asked questions that we're going to go over here at the end of the presentation. We're also going to post this presentation online, so if you missed something or if you've got neighbors that couldn't make this meeting, send them to this project website. We're going to post the website. Post this presentation. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, but by the end of the week, we're hoping to have that posted on the website. And project hotline, that's going to be your best contact for any construction-related questions. That's our field staff that's going to be answering the phones. They will be able to come and meet you on site if you've got questions about specific concerns with irrigation or driveways or trees or whatever you got. That's going to be the best place to get those answers. And there's also an email address for that hotline. So we have our project area. Hopefully you're all familiar with this project. If there's anybody new, just a quick little recap of what we're talking about with this road rehab project in the Royal Oaks area. And we'll get to phasing here in a little bit, but the project scope generally includes full water main replacement, sanitary sewer lining and service replacement, storm sewer replacement, full street reconstruction, traffic calming, trail construction, rehabilitation, and then also repaving the parking lot at Chippewa Park. And so we also have trail rehab and some trail and sidewalk construction. This map, we also have a map in back. I think it's big enough to see, but we've got a map in back, and then we also have a map on our website. The sidewalk will be on Montrose, and then new trail on the south side of Queens Drive. There's an existing trail kind of on the north half of Queens Drive, and then a new trail on Courtly. So this is a phasing. We also have these maps in the back if you had a chance to look at this, and just wanted to make sure we're all aware that this is preliminary. So the one thing again with construction is this is going to change, but generally this is the outline that we're going to follow, and this is the order of operations. So phase one here is going to start here end of the month, and each phase will be about 2 weeks. We'll get into what to expect for those 2 months. But basically you can see here, generally there's going to be four areas that are going to be under construction at the same time. So very impactful project. It'll be a 2-year project, so this is the 2023 areas, and these are our 2024 areas. And again, this is posted on the city's website as well. So this is kind of what to expect in those 2 months. So the first week, we'll have some traffic control. They'll be putting up barricades and signs, temporary water, which we'll talk about that here. We've got some pictures to show kind of what that means, and the removal of curb and asphalt, and then a few weeks of the underground utility work, street excavation for a week, and then we'll be putting it back together for about 3 weeks, and then finally with some turf restoration. And so this is a video so you can kind of see what we're talking about when we talk about, what curb replacement and pavement replacement, utility repair means. So, James, if you can put it up.
Every year, the city improves sections of neighborhood streets and a variety of areas of Woodbury. Most of the roads are in residential areas, which are why city staff conducts a series of neighborhood meetings, open houses, and public hearings related to the Roadway Rehabilitation project. Residents attending these meetings have the opportunity to learn about the construction process, special assessments and funding, how it will impact them, and ask questions about the project. Special assessments are a charge imposed for improvements that benefit nearby properties. The amount of the charge bears a direct relationship to the benefit the property receives and is based on the city's assessment policy. Assessments are used as a partial project funding source in addition to general tax revenues and other sources. Once the project is formally approved by City Council, construction begins. The first step in the process is removing portions of the old pavement. A milling machine proceeds slowly down the street as it removes the top surface of the pavement, leaving a rough but drivable surface. In most cases, the roads remain open to traffic through the milling process. Depending on the location of the project, utility improvements might be done in conjunction with the roadway work. These improvements include sewers, water mains, natural gas lines, and communication cables. Utility work requires extensive digging and usually results in temporary lane or roadway closures. Motorists should be aware of detours in these areas. All projects involve curb and gutter work. Approximately 1 week before curb construction, sections are evaluated and marked for removal. If your curb needs replaced, you will be notified and given information on how it will impact your residents. During construction, any irrigation systems, dog fences, or other private features within the right-of-way will have to be moved by the property owner. Asphalt driveways damaged during curb replacement will be patched. Damaged concrete driveways will be removed and replaced. Curb work will also impact your lawn. The contractor will replace disturbed areas with seed and hydro mulch. The contractor will care for the area for 30 days. Residents are encouraged to water and care for the areas to achieve the best results. Once curb work is completed, it cannot be driven over for 5 to 7 days. Prior to final paving, the street surface will be thoroughly swept. After this step, the final pavement process will begin. Before the new asphalt is laid, tack oil is applied to the road. Residents should avoid driving on the tack oil because it can stick to driveways and vehicles. With the tack oil in place, crews will then begin the paving process. After the new asphalt is rolled and has cooled, it is immediately ready to use. If you have any questions regarding the project process, assessments, or the scope of the project proposed for your neighborhood, please contact the City of Woodbury Engineering Department at 651-714-3593.
All right, so along with that, we're going to go over some expectations for what construction is going to bring for us. We're trying not to sugarcoat it here. There's going to be some inconveniences, especially with a project this size. So one of the things we've kind of touched on is weather is going to make our schedule unpredictable. If we have a dry season like last year, we can probably get ahead. If we have a wet season like we have had this winter, or if we don't get warm temperatures, then obviously our construction start date might get pushed back, and all the phases are going to be pushed back beyond that. So we've got some unpredictable weather, which means the schedule is going to change. Inconveniences, like I said, with this project, there's going to be massive excavations. The water main is about 8 feet deep, so you're going to have a big hole in your street when that work is going on, which is going to be a few weeks. And so with that, there's going to be dust, there's going to be noise. So just be prepared for that, and we'll do whatever we can to minimize impacts. If you've got appointments and things that you've got to make, call the project hotline, and we can work with you as to make sure that if you've got appointments or essential things that need to happen. Unfortunately, we might not be able to accommodate everything, but if you have any questions, just contact the project hotline. Safety, again, if you've got small children that like watching construction equipment, that's fine, but just make sure that they're staying away from these equipment. They're large, they've got lots of blind spots, and so just make sure that we're conscious and staying away from the construction equipment. Resident access, so we'll touch on this a little bit more, and Jeff will touch on it when we get to the photos here, but the plan is to maintain access for residents for the most part. There's going to be some times where you won't be able to get into your driveway, but most of this project, you should be able to get in and out of your driveway, and that's going to be the best place for you to park. And if you have specific concerns and you need driveway access throughout construction, again, the project hotline is the best place. And this is kind of a photo to show what we're talking about too when we talk about service or placement, and why this is going to be such an impactful project. So this red area, kind of got a laser here. The red area here, this is what the excavation is going to look like for service replacement. So you can see here, this is going to be encroaching on your properties. And so we just want you to be aware that there's going to be extensive excavations, and again, that we're going to do what we can to minimize the inconvenience, but there's going to be some. And with that, I'll bring it over to Jeff Toutant, who's going to be with Bolton & Mank, and he'll be one of our inspectors on this project, and he can talk about more specifically what to expect with construction.
I'm going to start things off by saying that video that you saw had a lot of very good information on it. Some of the information that's on there doesn't necessarily pertain fully to this type of construction that we're doing. That project had a lot more street work and a lot less utility work. What we're going to be doing this year, you're going to expect to see, I'll say, more of the excavation type slide at various durations throughout construction. Some of you that live in the early phases of construction might have already seen an initial notice come out about temporary water services. That's going to be the first step of construction that we're going to do. The contractor is going to be coming out to the site, and what he has to do is he lays out like a plastic pipe across the front of yards, and he'll make a connection to your existing water line. While that work is occurring, there might be times where your water will get shut off. You'll always get a notice whenever there's going to be any type of water shut off in your neighborhood. Typically, the water shutoffs you should expect, they'll usually be 2 to 4 hours. The notices are usually 48 hours in advance, so you shouldn't get a surprise, I'll say, when you wake up in the morning. Any of these notices will be like door hanger style notices. So throughout construction, when you were working in your area, you should keep your eyes open when you're coming home from work. I know a lot of people drive right into their garage when they get home. You want to make sure that you're checking your front door for these types of notices. Also, when we're doing work on adjacent phases to you, your water might be impacted for short durations and shutdowns also. So just because we're not working right on your street at that point in time, you might be impacted as far as the water service. Once that water service, the temporary water services are set up, the next major step of construction is going to be the removal process. On this particular project, we're going to be removing all of the existing concrete curb, all of the existing pavement, and then there'll be a resultant like gravel surface throughout construction. That gravel surface will be maintained throughout construction, so you'll be able to get in and out into your neighborhoods. If you have to drop materials off throughout the day, typically you can get in and stop in front of your house and drop it off unless the contractor is working right in front of your residence. When they're working right in front of your house, I do want to point out there may be times during the removal process where you might have like a 6-inch or 8-inch or maybe even a foot drop off right behind when they do the removals. So just be cognizant of that and keep your eyes open during the removal process. They'll follow right behind and ramp things up, but there might be a duration of maybe 20 minutes, half an hour where you wouldn't be able to get in and out of your driveway. The utility and utility repair and maintenance, the excavation photos you see here, you can see how deep they are with the guy standing in the trench and it's up over his head. Most of the utility work that we're doing on site is going to be in that 5 to 8 feet in depth, with occasional locations where we're going to be digging deeper than that. The first step is, as far as the utility work goes, the contractor will be installing and replacing lines that are out in the street. And then the last step that he'll do is he'll be making the connections to your existing services in front of your homes. Once all the utility work is complete, the contractor is going to begin working on the street. The utility contractor will move ahead to a future phase, I'll call it, and the street crews will move back in behind them. When the street work occurs, you'll kind of see that drop off in the photo where you see kind of the black fabric up there. The drop off, as you can see, is rather significant, but this is, again, it's a moving process. When they're working right in front of your house, there's probably going to be a period, I'll say, of 2 to 4 hours where they're right in front of your house, and then it'll be gravel back behind them. While this work is occurring, there'll be trucks going in and out of the neighborhood. In general, the contractor will do as much as he can. He's going to do the construction where you see half the road open and half of it closed. There are going to be some segments where he's going to work the full width of the road at a time. But his goal is to try to do as much half and half as possible because it helps him be able to get his trucks through heading one direction versus going back and forth throughout construction. Once the gravel placement's done, the concrete curb placement will occur. Most of the curb out here is going to be placed with a machine. There'll be some spot locations where they do hand placement like was shown on the video. The machine placement is, again, it's another moving process where the equipment starts on one end of the street and it'll go down the road. It will get like a whole block worth of curb done in a day. They move at a walking pace all day long. So on days where you see the machine maybe down at the other end of the block and you think, all right, I'm okay, I don't need to get out of the driveway, it's important to pay attention to them notices, and if you see that guy coming down the road, you'll want to make sure you're out as soon as you can. Once again, that the notices that come will give you information and details of when you should get out of the driveway and where to park during the curbing process. With the concrete curb placement, there's a period of about 5 to 7 days where you wouldn't be able to get in and out of your driveways. During that time period, there'll be designated parking areas on other streets near your neighborhood. They'll be in the adjacent phases where there's no work occurring. If you have any kind of special needs for access, then reach out to that project hotline, and then you can coordinate. There's an option for the contractor to do driveways and kind of leave a piece out. Obviously, for ease of construction and speed of construction, if it's possible for you to get in and out, and I'll say walk versus needing the driveway access in and out, it does help speed up construction. But we do understand there are people with needs to be able to, that need to get in and out. So just make sure you coordinate that with the folks with the project hotline that'll be out in the field on a daily basis. The concrete driveways will be following right behind, usually a day or two behind the curb placement. That way the curb cures and gains its strength about the same time that the concrete driveways do, to try to minimize the amount of time that you're not able to get in and out of your driveways. Once all the concrete work has had that cure time, the contractor will come through and use grading equipment. It takes up about half the road width each time he goes down and makes a pass, prepping that gravel for the final layers of pavement. That process, usually you'll be able to get in and out of your driveways by that point in time, and they'll put little ramps in front of the curb so you can drive up over the curb. If it's the first day or two when they start doing this grading process, you might still be asked to park on the adjacent streets. And the paving process will follow right behind the aggregate grading. For the pavement process, it's another moving operation where the contractor will place his hot asphalt. The rolling equipment that you can see in the bottom photo will follow right behind the paver. Typically, from the time that black pavement's initially placed, it's usually a time period of about a half an hour before that roller makes a couple passes on it. And at that point in time, once it's been driven over a couple times with that roller, then you're okay to drive on it. One thing we do ask of residents is when they're doing the paving process to try to avoid, with your vehicle parked in place, turning your steering wheel, because it will dig in a little bit on the first couple days after the new pavement is placed. Here's a couple photos showing the restoration process. The topsoil, a lot of it will be placed before the paving is completed, and then they'll do the finishing layer of topsoil right after the pavement has been placed. Follow behind that by using seed, and then the greenish type product that you see it's a hydromulch. When that's sprayed, it's a bunch of fibers that kind of interlock. The idea behind that is it helps hold moisture in to help that grass grow, and it also will protect it from washing away during any rain. I think I've kind of hit on some of the main things for the street access during construction, but once again, I just want to reiterate, if you ever have concerns when you can or can't get into your driveway, make sure you're calling that project hotline. That's really should be the biggest takeaway from this meeting, is that project hotline is the best way to get a hold of folks out in the field. If you noticed as we've gone through the slides, you've seen that number probably 4 or 5 times already. So we really want to make sure people are reaching out to that hotline. If there's any special needs or any reason that you would need to get in and out of your driveway, maybe you got some type of event going on. That's the type of stuff you want to make sure to coordinate with that project hotline. That'll be going directly to folks that are out in the field on a daily basis, so they'll know exactly what's going on in the field that day. I had mentioned the things to avoid with the paving. So you can kind of see in the upper right photo where someone had driven across the pavement and turned their steering wheel. That one is a little more severe than what a car would do. That one is from a garbage truck, tandem axle type truck. When we do our paving, it's coordinated with the garbage pickup, so we try to avoid the garbage days to avoid situations like you see in that photo. You also see where there was a guy that decided to drive into his driveway, didn't pay attention to the notices right after the concrete curb was replaced. Because he decided to drive into his driveway, the contractor had to come back in and replace that, and he had to be out of his driveway for a longer duration. So he might have thought he got away with something, but ultimately he just slowed down the project and was impacted for a longer duration. In the bottom photo, you see there's a tack. It's a black sticky substance that we put down in between layers of asphalt pavement. That black layer of pavement, or black layer of sticky stuff, is kind of like a glue between the 2 layers of pavement. That we try to forewarn residents that they don't want to drive over that sticky product that'll get on the tires, that'll track up in the driveways. So we want to try to avoid that. It can be cleaned off of driveways, but it takes a lot of work to clean it off. So on the days of paving, in particular when they do that last day of paving, you'll want to make sure to stay off of that black sticky product or material. And I'll turn it back over to Mike. He can talk through some of the frequently asked questions.
All right, so there's also a handout with a little more information. This just kind of covers some bullet points of frequently asked questions. So right now, project is tentatively scheduled for April 24th, and you'll see some construction equipment here before that. They'll be starting to do some of the temporary water work before that, but you won't see any excavation equipment likely until that April 24th, and that has to do with some spring road restrictions. So the streets will generally be open during construction. Again, I think Jeff covered this one pretty thoroughly, but there will be some closures when they're doing some of the utility work, and the notices will have some more information on that. General working hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Occasionally, the contractor might have to work a little beyond 7 p.m. if they've got something that they have to wrap up. The city working hours are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So they are allowed to deviate slightly from this, but to be courteous to the residents, we ask the contractor to stick to the 7 to 7 as much as possible, again, except for maybe some rare occasions. They may deviate from that. Driveway access, again, the best place to park during construction is going to be in your driveway. That's going to keep you out of the way. There will be some times where, if they're doing work behind your driveway, you won't be able to get out. So again, pay attention to the notices and ask questions if you've got appointments that you have to make. And then, of course, during the curb placement, you won't be able to park in your driveway for about 5 to 7 days. But when the curb is put in front of your driveway, you can still drive up to your driveway, and if you've got groceries and things, you can drop those off. So we're not expecting you to carry groceries 4 blocks. This is kind of a big one that we need to touch on, is the irrigation systems, underground dog fences, other landscaping features. The city cannot reimburse or repair anything that's damaged within the right-of-way or within these drainage and utility easements, which is where the construction is going to happen. So if you have questions or concerns about that, again, this hotline is the number. But any damage to irrigation is the responsibility of the property owners. And this is a question that we've gotten a few times. Will the contractor offer any residential driveway or service repair? Not for this project. With the size of this project and the timelines they have to meet, they just don't have time to take on any of that additional work. So turf restoration, the contractor is going to be responsible for getting the turf restored. And so they're going to be responsible for watering it, seeding it, putting that mulch on there. What we like to say is, if you want your turf to succeed, it doesn't hurt to help it out and spray it with a hose. And we do have watering permits that are available if you wanted to help it out. But ultimately, the contractor is responsible for getting that grass to grow. And then garbage and mail services will be maintained throughout the project. There may be some times when they're doing that utility work where they'll be pulling the garbage cans. The contractor will be responsible for pulling the garbage cans from the bottom of your driveway to a pickup location. So they'll mark the garbage cans and recycling so they know which ones to bring it to. But generally, the garbage and recycling will have access to the neighborhood. And there will be temporary mailboxes that will be placed in various places. Again, your notices will tell you where your temporary mailbox is going to be during construction. And the contractor is responsible for replacing your mailbox after construction. And so we just wanted to make sure people are aware of what to expect after paving. So the next year after paving, it's not uncommon to see small cracks like this with the winters that we get, especially if we get a really cold winter. These kind of cracks are not uncommon, and we can maintain those with crack filling. The other thing that we will be doing the year following paving is putting some it's a rejuvenator on the pavement to extend the life of the pavement. So expect a year after construction to see them spray that asphalt rejuvenator on there. It won't be anything like this construction project. It'll be, a 20-minute kind of a project versus this one. And we just wanted to make everybody aware that there's some other construction going on in Woodbury this year. So I-94 between Century Avenue and St. Croix River, there's going to be a major project going on there. So if that's your route, definitely check out the website there. And then the Gold Line project is starting, and they've got some lane closures happening now and will continue here through summer. So if you have questions about that, we've got a link to the city's website there.